Guys, in the property management world, there's so much that can happen. And I'm sure you've never even thought about it, but what if your tenant goes missing? How long do you keep the property for them before you take occupation? What do you do with their furniture? Tenant's gone MIA. We're going to talk about it right now. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Ooh. Property manager expert Cleo with you. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm good. I'm good. I'm kind of enjoying a bit of the cooler weather coming. I'm looking forward to winter actually.
It's definitely
um,
coming. Yeah, my
it
throat's
is,
already into winter. Yeah, it came
yeah,
early.
you sound a bit scratchy.
Yeah.
um, well, look, we are going to get our detective hats on. We are property managers, but we do, have a lot of hats. Put it that way. We have a lot of hats.
So tell me about
um,
this one. This you've got a tenant currently stuck in Iran and they can't get back. And a family member has contacted you and said, "What do we do?" So there's this dilemma for a landlord saying, "Oh my God, they're not paying rent, they're not physically there, their furniture's there. What do you do?"
I know it's one of those things where you're in uncharted waters. It's not something that happens every day, and you rely on government bodies like NCAT for information, and no one can give you an answer that's straight or black and white. So you could refer to the lease, you could refer to the legislation. It's one of those case by case things. So I guess the first instance is how many times have you made efforts to contact the tenant? If the tenant's not answering you, you've emailed, you've phoned. In this actual case, the tenant's ex-wife got in contact with us to say that she hasn't heard from her ex-husband. He had gone to Iran, and no one, no friends or family can get in contact with him. Now, rent was
Ooh.
paid up to date prior to him leaving the country, and now, the clock's on. There's rent owing to the landlord. So, what do you do with that property? Obviously, his whole life's in that unit. So, the first, obviously, instance was you need to apply to NCAT, which could take a week or two. Based on these circumstances, you could get an emergency hearing. You can request an emergency hearing. Um, Also, during this time, you want to be telling and asking your landlord, have they got landlord insurance? What does their policy cover them in regards to something like this? You hear about flood, fire, damage, all those sorts of things. But what
Yep.
about in the case of a war? Like, you just don't know to ask these questions. Like, what happens then? So,
Yeah,
I
I
guess
think a lot of insurance policies when it comes to war are
no, so it's not covered. Yeah. Well, it's got to be in the underwriting, right? So those fine print, things aren't usually obvious to someone that's just getting landlord insurance. All you think of is malicious damage and rent arrears, but this falls under
yeah.
rent arrears. So you should be sort of covered when it comes to rent arrears because the tenant is in arrears. So I don't know. We'll let you know how this case goes because it is unfolding, and
Yeah.
we have a hearing coming up. Um,
It's a
and then
case.
there's,
I like this case. Have this
I've
case
always
for
wanted to
you.
be a lawyer. I just
Yep.
happened to be in real estate. I couldn't study. No, so basically, we have had tenants that have been incarcerated before in the past. What happens then? The rent stops from that time that the tenant is
Because
away. So,
these guys often get jailed straight away. They don't get, go to often we have tenants
no.
that they don't go through a trial. They actually just get
they get snipped. And not just that, they don't tell you, obviously. No tenant's going to broadcast they're going through some criminal case where they might go to jail. So we're
Yeah.
always the last to know. What's very important during this process is those initial application contacts. When you're approving a tenant, you want to have next of kin, you have your referees, you want to vet those people, because in an event of a crisis, or in an event the tenant goes missing in a war-torn country, you want people to be able to speak to and relay information, so that even when that person returns, they know that we've made all efforts to get in contact and try and help and sort out the situation. So with regards to abandoned goods, you need to get an abandoned goods order when the premises is abandoned. That is a word though, abandoned. Is it really abandoned? So if a tenant goes away for, they're in jail or this or that, they haven't abandoned the property as such. They just aren't able to be there. So I don't know that you can actually get an order where you can just dispose of items. So it
So
goes
what do
back to
you,
that.
so when that happens, what do you normally do with the goods? Do they go into like a rental? Do you
Look,
rent some storage for them for a short period, or how do you do that?
yeah, friends and family. My situations where the tenant's been incarcerated, I've been able to speak to mum and dad or other family members, and they help out
Cool.
in taking the items and going through them. Because you also do it, how are you going to pack everything up? We can't
Do
go
you
there and
go
pack
do you go to
everything up.
jail and visit them, the tenant, to see if they're okay?
No. I don't know that they'll be like, all right, who's the visitor? It's my property manager. Let her
Yeah.
in.
Are you okay? I'm just here to see if you're okay. Can we do anything at Novate to help you? No, not gonna
But we
happen.
do, we do everything to minimize rent. I've often helped in that process. I have had a few experiences in that regard, and I've helped the tenant family navigate the move, and we came to a negotiation on the rent owed. Stop the clock when they left. The landlords have been educated through the way, and they're happy to. It's not an everyday thing. So most people are reasonable in these situations. I have had one as well where they've come back and gone, what the hell? Like, and they've rung and they've said, like, and I said, well, we tried getting contact, this and this and this. We followed up on this. This was your family member on the
But
application form.
this is foreign to a normal person, but there are people out there where they just roll that way, and this guy would have gotten home, his place has been emptied out, and you've gone, sorry, and he's just gone
Yeah.
like, I don't know, camping in the wilderness or something, and on a whim, and didn't even think about the rent, or didn't even think about his mobile phone. Being called.
No, no, and look, to be fair, we have had communication with people's parole people, officers, and communication with things like that. It's just one of those things. You just deal with it and roll with it as you do. The items are the problem, the possessions of the tenant. It's not just the arrears, it's storing those possessions. If a
Yeah.
landlord's fortunate to have a garage, we've often moved everything out of the apartment into the garage so that we can
Right.
start the reletting process and show prospective
Good
people
idea.
through
Yeah.
whilst you wait for everything to get packed up and put away. So it is a process. A landlord in that situation realistically needs to expect some kind of loss financially, be it rent or storing the items for a short period of time. But as a property manager, you're relying on your real estate to have experienced people that have dealt with things like this, because not everyone has. And like I said, the go away tool for PMs as well is to make sure that those next of kin people and people on that application are current people in that applicant's life. So when you are approving someone, you need to let them know for sure, like, oh, this person, da 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 da, and check that off your processing, things.
I guess
Yeah.
you're minimizing that loss, aren't you? But if you're managing a property yourself, there's so many things you just wouldn't even think about that could potentially happen. So you hear stuff like this today, and you're like, wow, I never even thought of that.
Yeah, yeah. There are lots of things that pop up in our day-to-day business. But everyone has a story. All PMs, in our office have dealt with something
Good
that
ones.
someone else hasn't, and we just exchange, the wealth of info, which we love. So yeah, look, this particular instance with the gentleman in Iran is very unfortunate. We hope he's safe and well, and hopefully, he's able to get back home to Australia soon. And obviously, being an ex-wife, she's still there to help regardless, which is amazing. So,
God bless her. God bless
we're
her. God
very,
bless her.
I know we're very lucky that we're in communication with someone, because it can be, very frustrating for the landlord as well. They got mortgage, they just got a rate rise, and they've got no tenant in place with no
Yep.
way of moving them out
You got to act
immediately.
fast. You got to act fast. So
You
yeah,
got to act fast. Yep, you got to act fast and just roll with it.
legend. Thank you so much. Another property management case that we've spoken about today, and how we solve the case. But it's a
We'll
credit
let
to
you
you
know.
and your knowledge, Claire. Well done. Thanks, everyone.
Have a
Hope you
great
enjoyed it.
day. Bye, everyone.
Cheers. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.